We assume financial stress is a symptom of an income deficit, but observe the upper percentiles of the economy. The top-line revenue is exceptionally high, yet the underlying system is entirely fragile. A $2,000 unexpected expense should never threaten a six-figure salary, yet for a vast demographic of working professionals, it routinely does. It is not simply that a lack of liquidity leaves you exposed to risk. It is that the exposure is psychologically exhausting. When financial margins narrow, money becomes overwhelmingly loud. It captures the mind. Every minor transaction demands a calculation, draining the exact cognitive capacity required to perform at a high level. Under this specific kind of cognitive pressure, human behavior fundamentally shifts. We stop managing the overarching system and begin managing the immediate crisis. We tunnel. The urgent completely crowds out the important. The irony is that this hyper-focus mimics productivity, but it is actually the architecture of a trap. The standard cultural solution to this pressure is to simply earn more capital, but higher income rarely purchases control. Instead, the lifestyle expands precisely to consume the new revenue. The vehicle is upgraded, the mortgage increases, the costs become rigid, and the structural fragility remains exactly the same. We are conditioned to broadcast success through aggressive acquisition, loud brands, visible, immediate upgrades. But this is the aesthetic of the highly vulnerable. True institutional power operates differently. It doesn't signal through volume. It signals through an absolute refusal to perform. This relentless pursuit of the visible creates a highly dangerous illusion on the personal balance sheet. You can be extraordinarily wealthy on paper, yet entirely paralyzed in practice. Assets are locked in real estate, equity, and retirement. You possess a multi-million-dollar net worth, but you cannot easily write a check for a broken transmission. Living without a liquid buffer does not just put you at mathematical risk. It fundamentally alters how your brain processes everyday life. Every single purchase becomes a calculation. Every choice requires a trade-off. It is the cognitive equivalent of trying to pack a perfectly full suitcase. Every time you add something, something else must be removed. To escape this cognitive exhaustion, we automate our lives. We put our financial outflows on autopilot. Subscriptions, automatic payments, frictionless spending. But removing friction does not grant you control. It simply increases the velocity of the loss. When the system is entirely seamless, capital bleeds out without ever registering in the conscious mind. True financial resilience requires a completely different architecture. It requires the intentional, disciplined creation of slack. Slack is unallocated capital. It is money that serves no immediate purpose other than to sit idle. To the optimizer, it feels highly inefficient. But this specific inefficiency is the exact mechanism that absorbs the shocks of reality. When you possess this unallocated buffer, income volatility ceases to matter. A bad economic month does not necessitate a frantic lifestyle downgrade. A massive bonus does not trigger a lifestyle upgrade. The peaks and valleys of your earnings are entirely absorbed by the buffer, allowing your actual day-to-day existence to remain perfectly flat. It is easy to assume that intelligent high earners will naturally smooth over these shocks, but the human brain is wired to rationalize the immediate. Because an individual expense seems small, we convince ourselves it does not require a systemic adjustment. We view the crisis in complete isolation, failing to see the compounding pattern. To defend this system, we must deliberately reintroduce friction. If frictionless design causes us to bleed capital without thinking, positive friction acts as a strategic guardrail. It is the intentional insertion of a pause, a hurdle that forces the brain out of its autopilot state and back into the driver's seat. The ultimate architecture of control utilizes both modes strategically. You fully automate the foundation, the savings, the investments, the defensive structures. You remove the decision fatigue from doing the right thing. But for everything else, the spending, the consumption, the upgrades, you build in extreme friction. When you lack this bifurcated architecture, a financial shock isn't just an inconvenience. It initiates a rapid cascade of destructive decisions. There's a specific hierarchy to how we locate money in a panic. We start with savings, but when the buffer runs dry, we move to high-interest debt, liquidating assets, and quiet desperation. This is precisely how the trap closes. The absence of a buffer means every minor mistake is violently amplified. You lose the room to fail. When you're operating on the absolute edge of your margin, a single miscalculation isn't just a learning experience. It is a structural fracture that forces you into a permanent cycle of repair. This is exactly why a six-figure salary can exist entirely alongside quiet, suffocating panic. We have engineered lives of immense robustness on paper, but absolute fragility in reality. We optimized entirely for the external appearance of wealth and completely sacrificed the internal mechanics of resilience. To break the cycle, The very definition of wealth must change. Wealth is not the accumulation of highly visible assets. Wealth is unspent options. It is the strategic, disciplined holding of margin. When you hold liquid capital, you are not losing yield to inflation. You are buying the right to dictate your own terms. With your margin restored, the desperate need to signal evaporates. You no longer need to perform your wealth for a captive audience. You transition permanently from conspicuous consumption to quiet control. The ultimate status symbol is no longer a logo. It is the absolute unshakable certainty of stability. The greatest return on investment of a liquid buffer is not financial at all. It is entirely cognitive. When the deafening noise of money is finally silenced, your bandwidth returns. You stop tunneling. You regain your executive control. You move from playing defense against the present to designing the future. Money is not a scorecard to be compared against your peers. It is a structural material. You can utilize it to build a fragile monument designed entirely to impress, or you can use it to build a resilient fortress designed to protect. The choice is binary. Optimize for appearance or optimize for control. Choose control.